Yokai Watch has seen so many different challenges, ranging from various Nuzlocks, E-ranks only, Jibanyan clones only, or Professor Oak challenges, to tribe or elemental attribute only runs, but in this video I try beating Yokai Watch 2 only using one singular yokai on my team. Trust me, this challenge was insane and had so many frightening moments, so grab some popcorn, and whether I could beat Dame Demona or not, you will find out in this video. Welcome back to Dynamon. In this video, I try beating Yokai Watch 2 only using one singular Statiking to see if he's really the GOAT. Make sure to like and subscribe for more Yokai Watch content, and maybe also try out this challenge, but instead use your favorite yokai and tell me how it went. Before we can officially start this challenge, I have to prepare my save file. Since I don't save edit, the first possible way of getting Statiking is trading, which is unlocked after completing the quest officially official at the community center. That's why I played regularly until this point in the story, and to make sure I can always only have just one yokai on my team, I befriended a lot of random yokai beforehand. On top of my save file, I decided to summon my strongest Statiking for this challenge and maxed out his attack, technique and ultimate. I also went to the sports club to increase his defense stat, since this one will be highly important later on. As you can see, Statiking is level 99, but hear me out, this challenge is still one of the most difficult ones to beat, and there were so many nerve-wracking moments. Once my file was ready, I traded my Statiking to it and removed everyone else from my team, so just have a look at my amazing team now. My Statiking has a high spirit and an acceptable defense stat, a brainy attitude, but on the other hand only 408 HP, and a carefree attitude, which could cause problems. Before starting off this run, I had three major concerns. The first one are Earth Technique yokai. Since Nuzlocke Statikings of both Tuna Pokluga and Geosage died to Earth yokai, and Statiking has a pretty devastating weakness. Next are Inspirits, especially the ones which decrease your HP over time, make you attack friendly yokai, and the one which forbids you to attack. Once I'm inspirited, I will stay inspirited for the entire fight, since I can't purify my Statiking when he's the only yokai, and some negative inspirits can be extremely dangerous. And lastly, we obviously have Dame Dedtime's level steal ability, which could provide a whole new level of difficulty. I did a poll and it turns out 76% of you believe in my Statiking, so let's see how far we can get. As soon as I got Statiking, the first quest I decided to do was Bam Boom Fusing, which forced me to befriend Ache. Here I let my Statiking demolish all enemies easily and quickly got Ache. Since every new yokai automatically gets placed in my team, I had to remove him instantly. In Breezy Hills, I went on to get a bronze door after obtaining a golden and a silver one beforehand, and did some investigations on Gates of Whimsy. This time again, Statiking absolutely smoked all yokai like Packpocket or Dumbcap, and on top I sold some dolls at every mart in exchange for some good money early on. Now it was time to obtain Mr. Good-sized substances, which forced me to befriend Baku to leave my house during nighttime. In Shopper's Row, I encountered Terror Time and decided to leave without collecting any Oni Orbs, and oh boy, look what I got. Here I was about to include a Snowstorm Cloak joke, but you may know what happened. But still, I got an item Others Hunt Forever for free. If this wasn't lucky enough, I encountered Zap Double Step immediately afterwards, and rhythm minigames are not easy to trigger by pure luck. Sadly, I failed. So I went to Mr. Goodside again to upgrade my watch. Now it was time to go to school, where massive capsules appeared, and after one easy battle in the classroom, I reached the school roof and saw the first boss yokai of Yokai Watch 2 being Gutsy Bones. As expected, he was no challenge at all, and I only needed a few hits to defeat him. Poor guy only dealt 1 damage to me this entire battle. After my first Mega Nyan encounter, who made everything massive, I decided to go to Harrisville to visit my grandma, and no yokai on the train could stand a chance. This means I arrived in Harrisville, where I met my grandma, played a goofy hide-and-seek game, did the sorcery quest, and needed to defeat a few fidget fans because of Wall Kappa. This goofy yokai also wanted 3 carbs from me, but after also granting this wish, it was finally time to meet Mirapo, who also has no permission being part of my team. On the top of Mount Middleton, I met Palisol, went on to eat dinner at my grandma's house, and randomly got woken up by some weird sounds outside, which meant frying Snow Betty to save Tongus from her and 2 Mochismos. After also removing her, it was time to fight Chet, also known as Mega Nyan, who just like Gutsy is one of the easiest boss fights level 5 ever made. Once again, my expectation was proven right, and Mega Nyan got harassed by my goat with ease. To be honest, he doesn't even deserve to be a boss fight at this point. The fat cat then turned into Hovanian, who used his time stone to go back 60 years in the past and arrive in Old Harrisville. Here I found Nathaniel, who completely slapped a man inspirited by wicked yokai and consequently went on entering his secret forest base. After getting to know the Model U prototype, so it was time to collect all pieces, and at the station I obtained mirror dogs who again can't be used, which means it was time to do key quests again. Firstly, I did Betsmeller's hide and seek, and her fight was the first one I would consider interesting since she got me inspirited, which steadily decreased my health, but luckily I was able to survive, yet it still shows the danger of being inspirited. Some less exciting quests involve traveling through the old fox shrine to find another piece as well as obtaining the hacker panyo. I also decided to upgrade my watch again, which meant clapping helmsman, blips and slice and rice without major issues. When arriving in Prezi Hills again to get another doll, I encountered Time and wanted to show off my skills, but sadly I couldn't find any useful items, but at least I got a silver doll. Since I collected all Model U parts now, Nathaniel was finally able to construct the first ever Yokai Watch, which allows poking enemy yokai as well as Moxie's ultimates, but since I only have one yokai, this feature does not work. Consequently, Hovanian showed me some keepsake caps, which made me enter present times again to save our petrified yokai. At first, I did 4 Kappa's quest, who's weak to lightning attacks, so he was an easy task for me. Then, I went on to save Pedestal and Nomi, and also beat Toiletta's hide and seek at the school. Next, it was time to reach the top of Excellent Tower for Predictable, but since the elevator was blocked, I had to defeat Dragon, who can't even attack properly. So I also rescued Predictable. Now it gets interesting since I took the train to San Fantastico for my last key request. I also did some preparations, so I sold a lot of items to be able to buy some tasty pasta for befriending purposes, as well as a lot of fresh urchin made out of lead balloons as my main food.
Haltern! Ihr Haltern! Ja, Haltern! Haltern! Warum Haltern? Halte nicht, du fetter Wutzel.
I chose fresh urchin since it heals 240 HP, which is more than half of my health, and you can get it for a very cheap price in San Fantastico. In the seaside cave, I was forced to befriend Wiglin, Stepper and Ruth to move on and rescue my maiden. But suddenly, a massive boss yokai, Captain Crash, wanted to battle my precious Statiking, so now just enjoy Statiking destroying Captain Crash with only 5 hits, since Pro even has an elemental weakness against lightning, which is a massive skill issue. But boss fights don't end here, and since I rescued all yokai, it was time to go back to Old Harrisville. On my way back, I encountered a guy who could end this challenge being Red Box Man, so I ignored him and Kenichiro appeared in the secret forest. Boss yokai get a lot more interesting now, and this time I fought 2. I decided to boost my defense and target Kin first, since earth attacks can be very dangerous for Statiking, and got inspirited by Gin on top, which allows me to attack myself now. How amazing. After my only ultimate of that fight, I felt the effect of attacking myself, but luckily Statiking was able to deal a lot of damage while Kin's attacks weren't as bad as expected. Suddenly, Kin inspirited me too, which prevented many future turns. As you can see, the boss fight gets a lot more difficult here, but luckily I was able to prevail and defeat Kin. Fortunately, Gin has a lightning weakness and was a bit easier to defeat, even though I had to heal up Statiking a few times. After defeating Kin and Gin, Nathaniel came to savior us, and we saw Dedtime for the first time. Now, a storm was approaching and Jibanyan went missing, so I asked other yokai about him and later got to play as Rudy, which is probably the best key quest of this game, and we experienced his death as a real cat. Next up, it was time for a watch upgrade to rank B, which is why I fought Chama, Bendova, and Shanzen, where especially his battle was a bit tougher but still manageable. The most annoying request, however, was finding my dad's Wi-Fi's, which went missing, so I was forced to look around various train stations and befriend Flashback, but at least I finally got a bike. Therefore, it was time to experience the Cyclone in Uptown Springdale and also my next boss fight. Here, I pinned Iclone's right hand to prevent any negative in spirits and also used my ultimate. Iclone was able to tank a lot of my attacks and even pulled off a few ultimates himself, but in the end, he was easier than expected and I comfortably defeated him. Before the crate war between Bonies and Flashies, I decided to upgrade my watch again and therefore I headed to Nocturne Hospital. Here I took on SB and guys, this battle was far more difficult than everything so far combined. After lowering my defense by a lot, she used her earth attacks which almost cut my HP in half, and at one point just look at what happened and I was completely left in shock. I calculated it and he was at 2 HP. This fight was devastating, but Nerd and Garuma were manageable and not nearly as difficult. Now I got an A-rank watch and went to Old Springdale just to see all yokai arguing over their sides. Moreover, I had to pick a side myself and it hurt my bony heart that I was forced to pick Fleshy since this is a Fleshy source file. On the flatpot plains, my first opponent was Isor, who was not difficult at all. Then I had to turn some red stones blue and battled bony members like Phase-Off, Walden, Beetler, Mistank, Plandon and Lionheart, none of which were a real challenge for my goat. This means QB was able to destroy a barrier and I got to fight Endurifant, who despite surviving twice had no chance. Since all of his goons were down, it was time to battle Arachnos, the leader of the Bony Spirits army. After pulling off his ultimate and another voltage, I defeated him and went on beating 2 fireworks as well, so he was a lot easier than expected. He told the truth about this war and of course it was all over donuts. When we planned to leave, Unfairy appeared, so we ran away and quickly needed Master Nyada's help. After fighting Rayolite, I met Master Nyada in Shoppers Row, who told me to go to Mount Middleton for his trials. This includes catching him, finding 5 kittens in Old Harrisville, and fighting Demona, who was able to deal some decent damage, but I confidently took him down, and preparing myself for the story finale, I sold items again and got my hands on a lot of fresh urchin. Back at the Flatbot Plains, I was ready to battle Unfairy, who took nearly half of my HP away, but could not survive the goat. He however made Dedtime mad, which is why she stopped me in Old Springdale and fast forwarded the time. The Dedtime cloud was now spread around present Springdale and any single human got inspirited by wicked yokai. This made me battle a loiter and some more wickeds. At the community center, I found a buffer board for Mirror Dogs who let me access wicked Old Springdale. Therefore, it was time to take on the elite wicked yokai. Since Unkind is weak to lightning attacks, I had a good time fighting her, even killing her by poking, but Untidy on the other hand left me in shock again. At the start, he lowered my speed multiple times and when he seemed to be defeated, my Statiking decided to give up and loaf the entire time, which was the perfect opportunity for my orb to land a critical hit and almost kill Statiking. Eventually, my Statiking, who loafed more than my favorite Guna Jibanyan, defeated him. Next up was Unpleasant, who was a bit easier to defeat again, and also Unkeen, who could not even charge his ultimate, was not a big deal. Now it was finally time to start the story finale, which made me break into Sunset Manufacturing in order to battle Dame Dedtime, the boss I feared the most. I immediately boosted my defense while Dame Dedtime used her laser attacks, but shortly after, my biggest fear came true. Dame Dedtime stole my level and summoned a level 99 flicker, instead turning the fight into a 1v2. Both were spamming attacks onto my Statiking, which forced me to constantly heal up myself while only dealing poor amounts of damage. My ultimate also couldn't do much and I was really getting low health. This time I even almost died, but somehow I could get back up again. But Dame Dedtime and her minion were so strong I could not survive it any longer and my goat tragically fell and died from death, which made me lose this insane run. This means I cannot take on Dame Demona, but Statiking pulled off a great fight. For those who still don't know, Dynamon is the German word for Statiking, and I chose him as a yokai since I got 5 of him in the Infinite Tunnel a few days before creating this channel while hunting Swateria. As you can see, I was not able to beat this single yokai challenge, and level steal was the ability I could not resist in the end. Even though I might have lost, I still want to encourage all of you to try out this challenge with your favorite yokai to find out if there's any yokai who could beat the game on their own. Make sure to like and subscribe for more future Yokai Watch content, and if you like this video, you will absolutely love my 50 facts video, which in my opinion has been my best one so far.